First, we have a great opportunity to hear another golden nugget. Our golden nugget tonight is from incoming Director of Rotary International, Peter Kyle. Now, Peter first came to the United States from New Zealand in 1973, pursue postgraduate studies in law at the University of Virginia. He came as a Rotary ambassadorial scholar. So he came to the United States as a scholar on behalf of Rotary International. We brought him there. That's good for us. After having a career in private legal practice in New Zealand, he finally returned to the United States in 1992 to take a position with the World Bank as a senior international attorney. Well, we've had tax accountants, we've had regular accountants, we've had attorneys. This is an interesting crew here, but he stayed with the World Bank for 17 years. He was inducted into Rotary in 1976. Boy, you beat me, Peter. Okay, I thought I had you, but you've got me. And since served the organization in so many capacities. One that I really love what he's doing with is, and he may have to move on from that, but he currently serves as the Dean of the Rotary Representative Network. And I hope he tells you a little about that, because I bet you half of you are saying, what is that? You never heard of it. And I guarantee that. And it's one of our best kept secrets. And we really need to stop keeping it a secret, because it shows the power of Rotary internationally, and that major agencies around the world listen to us and listen to us on a regular basis. And Peter will also be the RI director for our zones 33 and 34 for the years 2022. So that's coming up. He received the Global Alumni Service to Humanity Award, along with the Service Above Self Award, the Citation of Meritorious Service. And he and his wife, Margaret, live on the West River in Maryland in a home that was designed by Margaret. And they live with close to their 2 children and 1 grandson. And I just wanted, on a personal note, to take the opportunity to say thank you to Peter. When I happened to be on Rotary business in Washington, D.C. a year or so ago, it seems like 20 years ago, but it was only a year or so. Peter hosted Esther and I and showed us and introduced us to many of the big folks in Washington, D.C. And let me tell you, they got some powerful folks up there. So to be able to shake hands and sit down and converse with some of them was fabulous. I really enjoyed it. And Peter put all that program together for me. Peter, thank you. I appreciate that. So I'd like you all now to give a rousing Caribbean welcome to our director-elect, Peter Kyle. Peter, take it away. You just had a standing ovation, by the way.
Thank you, District Trainer Extraordinaire, past Rotary International President Barry Rassin. What a great introduction. Barry, I hope you'll accept honorary membership of my PR committee. That was a great introduction, and I appreciate your kind sentiments. I well recall your visit to Washington. You were a rock star, and we had a very enjoyable time in Nairobi with the Rotary UN Day in 2018. You and Esther, everywhere you went, you were very well received and welcomed, and it's just a pleasure to be associated with you in the zone and tonight. And let me say hello to everyone. I think there are 265 on the call. This is phenomenal. I'm just so impressed with the organization. District Governor Delmer, District Governor Trevor, DGE Lyle, DGE Charles, and to all those who've been involved in the logistical and organizational aspects of this PETS, congratulations. You've done a phenomenal job. I loved the video that preceded the start of this session. I loved hearing from Mark Maloney. It's probably the 7th or 8th time I've heard that speech, but it's still a great speech. And you might just notice that today is President Mark's birthday. So you might like to, at some stage, sing him a happy birthday. So I want to say a little bit about COVID-19, but Barry has suggested I just briefly tell you about Rotary's best kept secret. As he mentioned, I serve as the Dean of the Rotary Representative Network. And as the Dean, the proper form of address to me is the Most Reverend or Your Worship. I will accept either salutation. So Rotary has established various relationships with UN agencies, UNESCO, UNICEF, UN Environment, and other organizations, the Commonwealth of Nations, the World Bank, the African Union, the Arab League, the European Union, and many others. And we have appointed Rotarian ambassadors with a small a in Geneva, in Paris, in Rome, in London, in Washington, in New York, in Nairobi, to represent Rotary's interests to those organizations. We have around 30 such ambassadors, representatives. The chair of that group is called the Dean, and I have the honor and the pleasure and the privilege of serving as the Dean. It's a great committee. I think it's one of the best committees in Rotary. Sadly, I have to give it up at the end of June to go on the board, but perhaps on another occasion, I can tell you a lot more about Rotary's relationships with the United Nations and other international organizations. We have a phenomenal brand. We are well regarded around the world, and the internationality of Rotary is what sets us apart from so many other organizations. But that's a story for another day. So perhaps Charles and Lyle, you can take note, and maybe we'll have an opportunity to talk about that. Today, I just want to say a few things about Rotary and COVID-19. You know, this is, as we all know, an extraordinary time, and there's a lot of tragedy and sadness and grief and disruption. But as so often is the case with tragedies, there are silver linings, and there is definitely a silver lining for Rotary. It is amazing to me, and I think to all the senior leaders in Rotary, how quickly and how easily Rotary has transitioned from a primarily in-person meeting organization to an online organization. Who would have thought 3 months ago that we would be meeting like this? 302 people. It's gone up dramatically in the last 5 minutes. 302 meeting from all around the Caribbean and other parts of the world. To me, it's just phenomenal. And I think some of the things that really I find amazing is the creativity and the innovation that Rotarians have developed over the last few months. It's taken some clubs some time to get comfortable with the Zoom technology. How I wish I had invested in the company that owned Zoom 3 months ago. By now I'd be a multi-millionaire, I'm sure. I spend most of my life zooming, which is good because my wife is a very keen gardener. She likes to garden, and I'm not a gardener. So it suits me to be on Zoom while she does the gardening. But I'm just amazed at how easy it has become to meet virtually. I've had meetings in Norway, I have a meeting next week with a club in Beirut in Lebanon, with a club in New Zealand, with clubs all over the world. And it's probably the same for you. One of the things that I think this has allowed us to do is to meet many more people. I was told as an incoming director, I would be expected to visit all 31 districts in zones 33 and 34. Those districts extend from the north of Pennsylvania, Erie, Pennsylvania, all the way down the East Coast, the whole, pretty much all of the Caribbean except for the Dominican Republic, and 3 countries in South America, Suriname, French Guiana, and Guyana. And to visit those countries, those territories physically in 2 years would be a very difficult task. But now I can visit all 31 districts in 1 week, virtually. Theoretically, I could meet all 72,000 Rotarians in our 2 zones in the matter of weeks. And you can too. The technology is just phenomenal, but it is the way that Rotarians have responded, the innovation that they have developed. Lots of things, virtual cocktail parties, bingo games, game nights, much greater use of classification talks, visiting other clubs. Why not one club in one country visit a club in another country? We've had some experience with global grants. As you know, sometimes it's difficult to do global grants, developing a relationship with a country or a club in another part of the world. But with the help of the Zoom technology, the entire club in one side of the transaction can meet every member in the other side of the transaction and develop a personal chemistry. And that's a much greater source of potential success. Many clubs are increasing their orders of takeout food. My wife, she likes to cook, but every so often she gets tired and she says, let's support our local restaurant. So twice a week, we now have hamburgers and all sorts of things that we haven't had for a long time. And I have to say, I'm loving it. And it's good for the economy. Sometimes when you go to a supermarket, why not buy a few extra cans of food or groceries and drop them off at a food bank? That will be very well received. Some clubs are making and donating face masks. Other clubs are sending cards to people in retirement homes, singing. My sister who lives in England tells me that every night in England at 7 o'clock, all around the country, people are going out into the streets and banging on pans and tooting horns and creating a noise to recognize and to celebrate the health workers and the sacrifices that they are making. What a fantastic thing for Rotary to do. And particularly to reach out to Rotaractors. They have so many ideas, they have the enthusiasm, the dynamism. We can learn a lot from the vigor and the innovation that Rotaractors bring to our regular events. So I don't think I've ever been so proud to be a Rotarian. I never thought that this would happen. I'm envious of you, the incoming presidents. I think you have an unbelievable opportunity. This was not on the cards 3 or 4 months ago, and you're having to readjust your planning and your thinking. But you have a chance to innovate. You're not bound by all the structures and forms of the past. You can create your year, your club. You can determine your priorities, and you can do it in a way that best suits the people in your club. So I'm in a way, I'm envious of the opportunity that you have. Yes, two other things that two other activities. Last night, I participated in awards night. District 7770 in the Carolinas had an online awards ceremony. Very well organized, a lot of fun. Another activity that you might consider. Sadly, just as President Mark mentioned, we have had to cancel the in-person Rotary International Convention, and it will now be a virtual convention over the weekend of June. I think it's the 20th and 21st, followed by some breakout sessions, and you'll be getting more details about that. By the same token, sadly, we have had to cancel the Institute, the Leadership Summit that was planned to be held in Pittsburgh in November. And that also will be an online event. And you'll be hearing more about that very shortly. And if I may be so bold as to take a moment to invite you to save the date for next year's summit, which is the summit that is my responsibility. It will be held in Naples, Florida, from September the 26th to November the 3rd. Attendance is mandatory. It's going to be a fabulous summit. It will be in person. Naples, as you know, is a very attractive town. 10 years ago, we had our summit there when John Smarge was the director, so we'll be following in very good footsteps. District Trainer Extraordinaire, past Rotary International President Barry Rassin, has guaranteed that he will be there. In front of the 323 participants, if Barry is not going to be there, I invite him to speak now or forever hold his peace. But I don't want to embarrass him, so I won't say any more about that. So
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
good. I hope to see you next year. This is, I'm amazed at how prescient Holger Naak's theme, Rotary Opens Opportunities. Who would have imagined how apt that theme is, and how we are adapting so easily and so quickly to the new environment. So I want to thank you for what you have done for Rotary. I want to congratulate you, those of you who are about to take office as club presidents and club officers. I wish you every success. I hope to be able to meet you in person. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time. Charles and Delma and Trevor and Lyle, and I see Haresh, all have my contact details. If I can be of any help at any time, please feel free to contact me. So thank you again to the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Barry, for your gracious introduction. I wish you well for the remainder of your pets. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. I really appreciate your giving us the time and giving us your thoughts on where we are with this new normal that we're stuck in and the positive side of it. You know, we've got to keep looking at the positive side. The glass is half full, and how are we going to make benefit of this and make our organization, our clubs, our districts, our organization better? And you just hit the nail on the head. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we're going to see a quick little movie here.
We've been here before, fighting the problems that fight back. But we can shift the status quo, because we see opportunities where others see obstacles. We're change makers and problem solvers, uniting over 1 million minds to address complex issues facing communities around the world, including yours. With passion and purpose, we've led the efforts to put an end to polio. Now eradication isn't just possible, it's plausible. Every day we're investing in a new generation of leaders so we can continue to provide access to clean water, tackle global health concerns, support education, and build the foundations of peace across borders. We're working together as partners and professionals while making friendships that last a lifetime. We're Rotary, and there's no limit to what we can do.
Well, now we have an opportunity to hear from one of our governors-elect, and an interesting challenge he has, as Peter covered the new norm, and his title is The New Norm. So please, we all have had the introduction of Charles before, so you know your governor-elect, and you know how committed he is and how engaged he is in making sure that Rotary next year doesn't just survive, but grows and flourishes, and we continue to show zones 33 and 34 that we're the best two districts in the zones. Peter, don't quote me on that to any other district, please. So please all get together now and give one of our most passionate welcomes to our own District Governor-elect Charles Seeley.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Barry. So first of all, let me say a special welcome to our Rotarians and our Rotaractors. It's so good to see so many of your faces here. I'm hoping that you are here because you thought an exciting presenter was coming. You didn't know who it was, but in seeing me, you're not disappointed. But it's so good to see all of you tonight. And thank you so much, Peter. It's okay, because what's happening is synergy from our president's presentation to the videos you've seen to what you would have heard in our golden nugget. And as we talk a little bit about this new norm, we wanted to make this a synergistic presentation for you. So here's how we're going to make this so easy for those who may have questions and for those who are going to participate in the exercise that I'm going to put forward. Now, those who come late, they may not get it, but here's what's going to happen. For the first part of the presentations, until I get to a place where I will identify, I want you to use the chat box to do what it is you really like to do, which is chat. And I want you to share in the group exciting ways to conduct a virtual meeting. Think out the box, think of some of the things that your clubs are doing, think of things that you've seen other clubs are doing. And we want to put that glossary of ideas together that we can share within our districts. So share your ideas. No idea is a crazy idea. Type away as many times as they come to you. And then a little later on, closer to the end of the presentation, where we are almost done, if you have questions, just jot it down for right now, but don't type it in. You'll type that in a little later on. So that way we will have a separation of church and state. First set of information are ideas. Second set of information will be the questions that you will pose. I'm wearing pink today, everyone. And I'll tell you, I am representing the district governors-elect from zones 33 and 34. We have identified pink as our color because the flamingo is our mascot. And if you remember, there's a past Rotary International president somewhere on this call who also had the mascot of the flamingo. And if you don't get anything else out of the presentation, I'll tell you a couple of things about the flamingo. First of all, the color is based, it comes from the food it eats. So its pigmentation is a result of its diet. So what it puts in determines what you see on the outside. We'll talk a little bit about that. The next thing, of course, is the males and the females look exactly alike. The males are just a little bit bigger. But the flamingo is known for grace and beauty, but more importantly, confidence. And I can understand now why past Rotary International President Barry selected the flamingo, because it is so true, the embodiment of who we are as Rotarians, because we eat the opportunities to serve. And what you see on the outside is a band of individuals who just want to give, who just want to serve their communities, who just want to do good. And so I can see the grace, the beauty, and the strength and confidence that Rotarians have. The flamingo is absolutely the best to use. Now, of course, if I had to give my input, I would have gone with a lion, but you need to know that I was outvoted. So here we are, we've got the flamingo. So tonight we'll talk a little bit about a new norm. So I don't want to, as President Maloney talked a little bit about, it's not a time to frighten everyone, right? But here's the facts. This is the new norm, right? So many of you in your communities, you're walking around with masks. These masks are either clinical or they've been made from other persons. You now have to keep 6 feet away from each other. There's a whole lot of rules in terms of how you are to engage one another. They started off with social distancing, and of course, they then went to physical distancing to make sure we understand what it is we're trying to accomplish. So we've seen 4.5 million persons be impacted by this, this dreaded disease, this virus. We've seen over 300,000 deaths as a result of it. And we've seen that it has not been kind to any part of the world. It's been all over our world. So we know for true that this is a new norm for us, something we have not seen. And even though the world has seen devastations and bounce back, this is an interesting one, especially how fast it spread and how not prepared we were for it. And so in the busyness of our lives, we have now all have to halt and we've had to stop. So the question is really for us as Rotarians, what do we do? What do we do as Rotary clubs? The district governors-elect, of which I speak on behalf of Governor-elect Lyle, who is here, we all connected, quite early when we were introduced to each other during our various trainings, and we created a family. As a matter of fact, our theme song is "We Are Family." But more importantly, we thought it was important that we come together, prudent that we come together and start to think about our districts. What are we going to do in this new COVID environment? What are our clubs going to be doing? And we've been strategizing, and with the support of our governors, we have to identify ways and ideas for you as clubs to be able to utilize, to be able to make your year a success in the midst of what is new and what is different. So what I will present to you tonight is some of the information coming out of those sessions. I happen to be one of the chairpersons. We have about 6 committees that I chair, and together they're working steadily on the various subtopics to be able to come with ideas, and we're going to make sure we have a way for you as presidents to be able to get that information as quickly as it comes out. But there's been great synergy, and I want to thank Rotary International, because Rotary International has early in the game, supported with information, access, and also supporting with tools in the learning resource platform to be able to help you to be able to make virtual meeting as easy as possible. So let's talk a little bit about this. I will make sure that this presentation is shared. You will see a few slides that will have a whole lot of information. The intention tonight is not to go through each of those, but to at least touch some of them, to talk a little bit about what we see as an opportunity for you. So the first thing we did was to really, from a synergy standpoint, I really believe in a one voice. Adopting our international president's theme was step 1. Step 2 is a reminder of how it is we plan. And our strategic planning process really talks about the big, bold elements of increasing our impact, expanding our reach, enhancing participant engagement, and increasing our ability to adapt. And so what we try to do is, as we talk about ideas, how do we chronicle them in that same framework as we remind the clubs, especially of one of the most important things that the international president would like for you to do, which is to ensure that you have a strategic plan for your clubs. And using this framework is an excellent way to do that. Remember those 4 elements as you are guided in the process. We know that through this COVID, we have to find ways to be Rotary, even in the midst of this. We are known for the good we do around the world. And because of our history, we are in a strong position to be able to introduce to the world opportunities for support and opportunities for service. So Rotary has well positioned itself. We talked a little bit, you heard a little bit about polio when President Mark spoke. You know that we've done this before. We're doing it now. And so the COVID environment, a new epidemic, a new issue for the world, is not something that we don't have the skills, the capabilities, and the framework with which to come at and to bring support. So we need to leverage on the history of Rotary and what we've done well over the many years. We've been encouraged very strongly, iterated again in President Mark's presentation. A reminder again, as Rotary Director, incoming Director spoke to as well, that we want to refrain from the in-person meeting. And if you do, it is not a mandatory meeting. You cannot force your members to attend those meetings. We know that it is going to be difficult for many persons, even after we determine that we can have meetings. comfort zone with wanting to attend those meetings. And so we have to be very lenient. We have to consider how we're going to bring into bear those new meetings. And a matter of fact, one of the issues you may have is your meeting spaces may no longer be able to support a reintroduction of your meetings because it's too small. It doesn't allow for a separation. So there's a lot that has to be considered, and Rotary is really wanting you to take into consideration your members and be very, very careful and cautious. I like the words used, making sure the science, but more important, the collective best interest. And that's for you and for the community, and when you make those decisions. So when we looked at it, we started to ask ourselves a couple of things. We have to recognize the most important thing is our members. How do we make sure we safeguard our members in the process of a new norm? We believe we should not lose a member in this process. No member lost. And as presidents, as leaders, if you start thinking like that, there's work that you need to be doing right now so that there's not a member that is lost when you begin your year as president. We know that at the end of the day, we've got to do some things. Even though we have to be calm, we have to be engaging, we have to be positive, we have to be proactive, we have to start building now. You cannot wait, I promise you, you cannot wait until July 1 to be prepared for a new norm and how you're going to manage your club presidency. The script of how a president did it last year, the year before, may not be able to work for you. And so now you have to start moving through the divots of how you're going to coexist in this new environment. Some of the questions we posed to ourselves, and this presentation will have in it suggestions and ideas both at a club level and at a district level, because we had to be very comprehensive in our thought processes. And this is, of course, continuing. We're continuing the dialogue. We're continuing to identify opportunities. And so you'll see more information, and you may have it tweaked a little bit. But we wanted to know how our district's going to look come 2020, including our clubs. What do we need to do to ensure that one of the biggest issues clubs are going to find is fundraising. How do you keep your club financially viable in this new norm? When some clubs are saying that we're meeting, but persons aren't paying their fines or their dues or other expenses. And so you have to now tackle some of these questions early days so that you can have a plan of action in place for when your year begins. So asking some of the right questions, your teams, your boards. This presentation is really to be more instructive and to help you through your planning stages for your year as presidents. What is the health of our club? What have we noticed has happened over the last 2 months now since this has occurred? We have in some islands, some countries, huge layoffs that are happening. I'm not sure whether it's happening in your districts, but huge layoffs. And some of those may be Rotarians. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for your club? And what are some of the new things that you need to do? What are some of the innovations that you need to employ, especially when it comes to finance and fundraising? These are huge questions that you need to ask yourselves. And you almost need to have a think tank, not just your board members talking about this, but your members and getting their ideas on some of these things. Let me talk before I go to the next slide actually on what we came up with. And so the 4 elements that we talked about were, 1, the recognition phase. And the recognition phase talks a little bit about, okay, it's different, all right? We have to identify that, things have changed in our environment. We need to do business unusual. And so we've got to now talk about early stage, how do we quarantine this? And clubs have been busily about this, looking at how do we do virtual meetings? How do we ensure that we're able to connect with one another? Some clubs are now talking about what projects that we're going to do, but early stage was, wow, how do we catch ourselves and realize, boy, things have changed totally for us. I saw when Barry said that this was number 7, and some people was like, yay, and some people was like, oh my God, another one. And it's because the new norm is Zoom, and some of us are zoomed out. I mean, not any of you on this call, but there are a whole lot of people who are all day on a Zoom meeting, on a virtual platform. And when someone says, here's another meeting on Zoom, they start to get anxious and they get concerned. So we have to consider all of those things. And in that recognition phase, it's really helping people to get their bearings, reduce the anxiety as much as you possibly can, figure out ways that will be synergistic with their lifestyles now, and see how we can make this work. So, let me see something. I think these slides got mixed up. Okay, I do apologize. I just wanted to dash through it. I think a couple of slides got mixed up. So let's go through a couple of the talking points. I'll use my notes. So in the recognition phase, talking about club cohesion. How do you make sure cohesively your clubs are banded together? We talk about if we were to increase our impact, well, what can we do? Well, we can do some exciting things like have speakers at our club internet meetings. And you've been doing that. And you've been smart. You use speakers from all over the globe. I don't think Holger, as an incoming president, any other incoming president has had this many opportunities to speak at clubs. You can access dynamic Rotarians from around our district, other persons from around your territories to be interesting speakers. So in increasing our impact, you actually now could avail your club to speakers that more than likely they would have probably not been able to hear from in the conventional space that we were in before. And so many of your speakers will come directly from your communities. Very few times you'd be able to engage international presenters. So here's a beautiful opportunity to be able to do that. In expanding your reach in this recognition phase, the e-club experience. For many of us, we probably had one e-club in our districts and you probably never visited it. Now we're all an e-club and we understand how that experience is. We can have club fellowships and activities such as wine tasting, and I've heard of a bear pub crawl. Now, I don't know how do you do this, but I got some information that you actually set up a bear in every room of your house and you do a bear crawl in your house. The beauty of that is when you're finished, you just need to crawl into your bed after that. But exciting things that you can do within that club cohesion. We talk about the ability to adapt, organizing small groups within each club to call and check on each other frequently. This is a huge, huge, huge one that may be missed. Many of us are too proud. I promise you, we're too proud to be able to say that we're hurting. We're too proud to say that I am not in the position that I would like to be in while in Rotary, and we won't share. And we have to be better about, I think, the interconnectedness as members, knowing your members, reaching out to your members, creating relationships so that we can be there for one another. Seemingly, we also need to be able to say something so we could help. And so getting persons to be confident and fearless and vulnerable, to be comfortable that they can do that within the bounds of our clubs, so that there's a Rotarian in need, we can bring support wherever we can. So we've got to do some things in that recognition phase to be able to help our club members. The second phase is mitigation. And this is really talking about the strengthening of your clubs, you know. So we identified there's a new norm. We realized we weren't prepared for it, but we've got to now ready ourselves and get ourselves in a position to be excellent dynamic clubs. So in the mitigation phase of club strength, we talk about in increasing our impact. Well, one of the things that you will find wonderful is District Governor-elect Lyle has as his major focus childhood obesity prevention. We have adopted the same to come alongside 70/30, but we also have diabetes prevention as a focus for us. Well, because of COVID, what is interesting is that the world has zeroed in on health. Health has become a major priority, and the opportunity to be able to get donors, support, media, and others on board is fantastic. So one of the ways you can increase your impact is to start looking at projects, start looking at emphasis, even on speakers, to talk about disease prevention and treatment. You would know that one of the challenges with this disease has been for persons whose immune systems have been compromised, comorbidities. lifestyle issues. These are good topics that you can think about and probably get good support as projects in the early stages of your presidency. Working with local agencies to assist in community and business recovery. A lot of companies are going to be looking for professionals who can help them to return to a level of normalcy. And we've got in our vocations, many of you who have the skill set, who may have the companies and the resources to support persons on how they can return back to a level of normalcy with their businesses. Public image. This is not the time for us to go to sleep. And I just had a meeting on this most recently. We still need to be visible, even in the midst of lockdowns. You have to be in by a certain time or you can't go certain places. The Rotary wheel, the Rotary passion still needs to be out there on display. So again, as you do your projects, as you write your letters and your communications, make sure from a public image standpoint, we keep Rotary visible. Enhancing participant engagement under this club strength. One I have here is to encourage and support Rotary Means Business. And we probably may have to educate a lot more on the Rotary Means Business events and activities. I had an opportunity 2 days ago to join our district chair-elect, Derek Smith, on a call. We visited a club in Malaysia. And on that call was 19 countries a part of this Rotary Means Business meeting. And this is an opportunity in Rotary where, we were afraid, is what I will use, to really understand that the power of the businesses that we have can come to the support and come to the aid of fellow Rotarians. And what a huge opportunity, especially during these times, when we can make Rotarian businesses availed of what we can offer to them. So as Rotarians helping Rotarians, sharing ideas of how we can collaborate and make it even easier for you as fellow Rotarians to do your work, to do your good, is absolutely fantastic. And I'm looking forward to what we started it this year. We're going to even liven it up some more coming July 1. Derek is excited, he's enthused, and he's got a lot of ideas. So you'll hear a lot coming out with regards to that. One of the things we talk about in club strength for you to consider, encourage club boards to work with their members who may be in financial need, and club fellowship activities and events. So you're gonna have to, again, look at the vulnerable among you and see where are the opportunities for you to be able to assist those members as possible. The third phase is continuation. And in the continuation phase, we're talking about building confidence. So, you can almost see these come in as 0 to 3, 3 to 6, and 6 to 9 month ramp up. But it's really talking about building on that momentum that we got a whack in the head with this COVID. It had a little anxious. We settled ourselves. We know what we got to do. We checked on our members. We're keeping our membership strong. Now we got to talk about how we build the confidence within our club and within our communities. And this is the opportunity to identify and participate in large projects and that increase our impact phase. I'm a huge proponent, and you probably have heard me time and time again talk about partnership. Huge proponent. Why? I've seen projects move from good to great, from great to ginormous, when we connect hearts and hands with other organizations, with other groups, with other larger branches of Rotary to do good. And so this is the time where participating, partnering is really going to bring good fruit, especially in a time where you're going to find that scarcity is going to exist. It's going to exist in many, many ways. And again, the opportunity to go to many of the companies that you previously had as fundraising initiatives or finance backing, you may find you're going to be challenged with those. So partnering is going to be huge. In expanding our reach under this phase, we can be bold and strong and clearly demonstrate that we are people of action. If there's any group they need to see on the streets, delivering food, helping out with information, being visible has to be the wheel, has to be Rotarians who are out there, continuing to connect hearts, continue to look for opportunities. We can also make education and training opportunities for members easy to participate in. when we talked about pets being canceled, I want you to know that was a huge blow. One, for the fact that I knew that in Tortola, they were getting ready for us. We were going to have an exciting time in Tortola. And I missed that probably more than anything else. And I also realized that in 1 day and a half, we could have done all the training that we're doing right now, all. And you'd have been back in your territories planning your way for a year. But things changed. And we were really saddled with how are we going to do this? The training that is necessary for our leaders, and be able to do it in a way that is going to be meaningful, non-disruptive, and have value. I believe if we had said that we were going to carve out a Saturday all day, on a Sunday for half a day, and have you on a Zoom conference for the entirety of that day, you would have probably mobbed us. Many of you would have started off seeing your beautiful faces, and by 2 hours in, we would have only seen your names. And you probably may not even been still in the rooms. We knew that it would be difficult to do all of this one time. And so we decided to do it in short spurts, injections, get you excited, give you an opportunity to go away, absorb, and then also get a rest, enjoy some of the things that are important to your families, other socialization, your work, and then we come back again. And I'm hoping that this is working. We're going to look forward to your feedback. Praying, of course, that we don't have to have another time like this where we have to do it, but it'll be good to know the models that will work best as you consider training. But this is an opportunity for you as well to talk about ways to make training really exciting in your clubs. It'll be nice if you were to take a look at Rotary Club Central and really get excited about, one of your meetings to just be about doing one of the modules on Rotary Club Central as a club. And really looking at how we continue to better our Rotary knowledge so that we can better understand how we can maximize on all the tools we have with us. So let's go back now to the presentation. So these are some of the actions that we've put here as recommendations for you. Again, it's now taking all of those things we talked about, and I'll ensure that you get the slides that have all of those on it, because there's a lot of ideas that we put together, and we'll share it with you so that you can determine which ones you may like. But in increasing your impact, you talk about your action steps, partnering with local agencies. How do you do that? How do you go about ensuring the phasing of who do you partner with, why do you partner with, which ways can you do that? Looking at each of these stages and identifying the opportunities in it to be able to make meaningful benefits to your club members, but more importantly to your communities. We see in this action phase here where, again, we talk about the focusing on the public image resources to attract possible members, expanding your reach. Working with local schools is another opportunity as well in this space. I wanted to, and I didn't make a note of it, but it just came back to me, to remind you that in your club, not everyone is virtually savvy. So you have to be very, very smart to engage your members, to ensure that they appreciate the virtual space or help them to become comfortable with it. I was amazed that I visited one of the clubs. They have now seen members who they have only seen on the roster. They didn't even remember how they looked until they showed up on the virtual screen, because now this works for them. Similarly, they've lost in some members who they haven't seen since they moved to the virtual platform. So as presidents, knowing that this is probably going to be the wave for the first couple of months of your presidency, you want to engage your members, make sure what their comfort zones are, and to get them all on board. And when you consider the new norm, consider whether, if you're getting the kind of impact, support, participation, where does this fit in our new structure of meetings virtually or in person? So great things to consider. The district governor visit is going to be different. If you didn't notice it, I'll let you know. I was supposed to be traveling as of July. I have reasons to believe and not suspect that I won't be traveling in July. There will be probably great restrictions to be able to go to most territories. They will all require that once I arrive, I have to be quarantined for 14 days. So there's a likelihood that I'm not going to be able to travel And I suspect Governor-elect Lyle will have some of the similar issues. And so, like indicated earlier, you know, this actually may open the opportunity for me to even visit more clubs, get to see more faces, interact with more of you. But I am so waiting. I am so eagerly anticipating for the opportunity when I can get on a flight, visit your territories, and be on the ground with you and touch you and see some of the things that you're doing. All right. Again, continue to develop exciting ideas for your clubs in terms of innovative models, and hopefully the sharing is going on, and we'll put some of that information out in a few for you. Once we've gotten all those ideas, send that out to everybody. I'm going to send this out as well. This is very difficult for everyone to read, but if you look at it, you talk about the phases of the action plan. And so you'll see the recognition of, if you partner with a local agency, what do you do next in the mitigation phase? In the second phase, we encourage a discussion on this particular topic of prevention. So we find agencies to partner on that. In the continuation phase, we may identify and participate in a large project with other clubs or other organizations on the topic of disease prevention and treatment. And so you can take each of them as you come up with the ideas and take them through the phasing on how you will be able to produce them. Don't want to overburden you with so many things. Now we come to the point where if there are questions, you can start asking your questions and you can put them into the box. But here's something that I think would be nice for you to use. When you think about your clubs coming back together and you wanted to meet in person, these are some things that you can start thinking about very quickly. You know, how will you create this physical distance in your club spaces? How is that going to happen? How is it going to be able to be controlled within that meeting space? Will you have to still wear masks? Will you make that a requirement until there's a comfort zone? I happen to work in the healthcare space, and there is not envisioned a vaccine before next year. So there is an opportunity for this outbreak to be with us for a while. So what are some of the things you're going to be doing within a physical meeting space that is going to make it safe for all, even when we think the pressure is off us? Some of the traditions that you have in your club may be, have to be modified. You may have to think of some of the things you do that allow you or require you to become very close to one another. We talk about the mic and spaces where hands are and so forth are, and how do you encourage your members to keep their hands washed and so forth? How will you do those things? The hugging and the shaking of hands, which Caribbean folk, that's what we do. I mean, that's how we connect with one another. We hug and we shake hands, and a new world that says that, boy, you have to keep a distance. How do we manage those things in our new spaces? What do we do with our members who may be vulnerable, especially as we get into the latter part of the year when our seasons have changed, weather conditions have changed, and those who are either compromised in some way, a little older in age, what are we going to do for those members to safeguard them? So there are a lot of things that you have to consider, and this sample questions was created to be able to assist you in your planning as Rotary clubs, to talk about, here are some of the things we need to consider before we press go. Let's make sure we're clearest on this in going forward. So that's just something I wanted to remind you of. Again, that's going to be in the toolkit for you to help you as you prepare. So in so much of a wrap up, this is probably the crystal of it all. And our President-elect Holger made the statement, and he said it to us when he spoke to us. You know, don't try to get your clubs back to normal. Create a new normal. And in creating that new normal, you need to, and all of you know these persons in your club. There's a group in your club that whenever you're going to try something new, they are the naysayers. You need to find them. Here's your trick. Before you announce it in the club, have a conversation with them. Beautiful to get their views and opinions and let them understand what it is you're trying to do in your club. Find the naysayers, and some of them have a little bit of seniority not calling any group, but they may have a little bit of seniority in the club. Help them to understand why you want to change it, why do you want to do this, and get their support in ways that it can be done. And also understand from them some of the things that you need to be aware of that you may not consider in your zeal to be able to make it happen. But create that new norm that would allow you to go forward in this new world. And I think that's the most important thing that we have to consider, that whether we like it or not, the world has shifted. And we have to shift if we want to be great as a Rotary organization. This is a quick reminder. The virtual convention is coming up. More information, you can go on riconvention.org for those who are interested. Hopefully get all of you to sign up on it, but you can go online and you can get more and more information about it. And I look forward to seeing all of you there. I think it's going to be exciting. It's going to be different, but it's going to be exciting. I look forward to seeing you all there. And this is it. This is it. This is who we are. We are here to unite and take action to create lasting change. And even in a non-COVID environment, we're Rotary and we do good. And so with that, I wish all of you the best. I look forward to your support. I look forward to being a support to you wherever we can collaborate together to do good. I promise you, I don't know all the answers, but I have the willingness to be able to help you to get what the answers are. So with that said, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Everybody applauding, everybody standing up, great standing ovation. Thank you, Charles. Good stuff, a lot of good information. Now, Charles, how would you like me to have? We have some questions and we have a whole long series of suggestions on what we should do. I never wrote so fast in my life.
So I would say that one of the things we do is we take care of the questions. And then what we can do is make the suggestions available to all of the presidents and all of the clubs so they can use them within their boards. And if we have time, you can probably share one or two exciting ones there as well, because it's in that sharing that we're going to really be great.
Absolutely, and there's some fun things in there that I think we'd all enjoy doing. So let me hit the questions first for you. One question, and maybe Peter could help us with this, but what is the future of the Rotary Leadership Institute and its programs?
Well, as far as I know, there's been no change. RLI, certainly in Zone 33, and I think it's the same in Zone 34, is planning to continue, but online. Like everything else in Rotary, everything is continuing online. So I can't give you specifics. I'm happy to follow up, but I'm quite sure that RLI will continue, like everything else, virtually.
Peter, this is probably an unfair question, but could you give them an overview of the board decision to have a pandemic task force?
Yes, so at the last meeting of the board in April, which was held online, we met over 4 days from 9 in the morning till noon. It was quite an experience with multi-languages and many people on the line. The board is very concerned about the safety and well-being of Rotarians. That's our overriding concern. And that led us to make recommendations about holding meetings virtually, district conferences, summits, the international convention, at least at the end of the year, no Rotary funded travel. You probably had all these things circulated. And the board agreed to establish a coronavirus task force consisting of 9 people. I believe it has been chaired by current RI Director Jeffrey Caderet. And Barry may know more about this than I do. I haven't seen the composition of the team, but the mandate of this committee is really to look very carefully at how Rotary and Rotarians will operate under the new COVID-19 environment. And they will come up with specific recommendations, I think. I don't think they've had their first meeting, I'm not sure, but it is part and parcel of Rotary International's overall response to the COVID-19 pandemic situation.
Yes, and thank you, Peter. And Jeffrey Caderet, current director, is the chair. Their term is only till October, they give their final report. I happen to be sitting on there as a trustee liaison, so we'll make sure we filter all these ideas. So back to you, Charles. How do we keep the momentum going? Because the novelty of the Zoom is going to wear off.
So I think, and that's one of the ideas why I asked for the sharing, so we can continue pushing the envelope. But remember now, the Zoom is only a platform for what we've always been doing, which is doing good. And so I've been talking about the fact that if clubs have been struggling before, they may still be struggling even in the Zoom environment. And so you still have to, as leaders, address some of the big issues in your clubs. And so the momentum is really going to be based on addressing some of the things that have stunted you, the opportunities that you can envisage to be able to become even excellent, partnering and visiting the world and making it exciting, but more importantly, concentrating on the things that your club do. There was a conversation most recently that I was in about, will Zoom cause our clubs to look totally different and people will not fit in this new meeting style? And you may need to think of those things that are part and parcel of your club that your members love and try to ensure that you don't lose those elements. So when they come to that Zoom meeting, they still feel right at home. So injecting the spirit, the uniqueness of your club still needs to be, I think, present while talking about the opportunities for growth. And so it's going to be a lesson for all of us to learn from. This is new. I think collaborating with your fellow presidents and talking about ideas as well and sharing, don't lose that interconnectedness. I think that's going to be helpful as well.
Okay, very practical question. How do we keep our usual fundraising going?
I don't think you're going to be able to keep usual. You may have to start thinking unusual. You may have to think about, and in terms of the projects that you would have slated for your year, is there ramping up towards that process and a clear knowledge that where you are as a country or a district may be different from someone else. So as you talk about how do I approach this, it's going to be based on what's happening in your locale. If your community is finding it difficult to build back up, then some of those big, hairy, audacious goals that you have may not be able to happen in the first trimester or even the first 6 months. And so you may want to start thinking about projects that are less financially dependent, that require less support financially to be able to affect, and then slowly roll those other ones in when, of course, normalcy starts to kick in.
Okay, and we've had this question before a number of times, but how do we attract new members under this new world?
Oh my gosh, I think this is such an exciting way to find new members. You have so many persons now who can fit a Rotary meeting in, because I don't have to lose 30 minutes of the day getting to the Rotary meeting. I don't have to worry about the next 30, 45 minutes getting from it. I can save an hour and participate in a Rotary meeting. And I know we talked about it in a previous session, but going to your organizations and really getting persons right within some of your organizations or next to you, get them involved, get them excited, family members, other persons who you know have a heart and the willingness to do good. Invite them into one of your sessions and let them see it for themselves. I believe you can get a whole lot of members during this time. And I'm excited because I've seen clubs who are doing it. We heard about clubs who are doing major inductions during this time, so we know it can happen. We just need to do one thing. We need to talk. We need to talk about Rotary. We need to share Rotary. And I think when we share it, when people see what we do and they hear from us from our heart, they'll want to be a part of us.
Another very practical question. We're coming up to the board handovers from president to president. How should we handle our handover?
Well, I had such a beautiful induction plan here in the Bahamas. I was going to fly in our district governor, and some of our wonderful esteemed Rotarians would have been joining us here in the beautiful islands of the Bahamas. And I have now had to shelve that idea. And now I have to get all dressed up and look good on Zoom and do my handover. It's new, it's different, but hey, the important thing is let's be very clear on what's really important. Some of these glitz and things we do are really nice. It's good feel-good moments, right? But the reality is we're in a place where there's a lot of hurt. There's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of frustration, vexations, and I mean, people are anxious. So some of the things that would have been nice to do, we're going to probably have to give those up and be very clear on what our roles and functions are. You are a president. You're not a president for you. You're a president for a club. And you're there to be the cheerleader, the top cheerleader, to excite them about what we can do in the midst of this adversity, And we have to lead by example. The best thing we can do is show persons that, hey, in the midst of where change occurs, we can adapt. And I'm looking forward to a lot of online Zoom opportunities. I say come together as clubs. If you have clubs where all the presidents can get inducted, let's get one of our senior Rotarians on board and let them do the induction ceremony for us, for you. We're privileged to have our director, Urchet. She is actually organized where the international president will do an installation for all the district governors-elect in 33 and 34. But those are some of the exciting things you can do. You can now invite celebrities to be a part of your induction ceremonies online. And you could still look good when you do it. So get sexy, look good. Remember the flamingo, confident, beautiful, and dashing. So you can still dress up. And we're gonna have some fun because the fun is gonna be 6 months from here when we talk about, boy, you remember when. And we can laugh about some of the things we would have done differently.
All right, Charles, we have time for 2 more questions. This first one, Alvina is trying to be very diplomatic here. It says, our membership is on the more mature side. Quite a few have not signed on to our weekly Zoom meetings. How do we engage those members?
That's the answer. Engage those members. That's the answer right there. And, in communication, sometimes you find out that you may not be the right person. You may want to find someone who's close to them who's already online and let that person work with them to find out what are the peculiarities of why they're not. Encourage them that they're missed. A call from the president is always a beautiful call to know that I'm that important, that you called to check on me and to say that, hey, would love to see you there. So engage them, engage the members, bring your technical support to them. And it may be even as simple as, well, I don't even have a computer to do this at home. And I normally would do this at work. So you may find, and there's a way to help them to know how to do it on their phone. So I think engaging them, finding out why, and then providing with the support technically and otherwise. And also more importantly, we want to see you there. Letting them know that they're wanted and that they're appreciated. I think that'll go a long way.
I think all the rest of these are compliments about your presentations. I'm not going to read those. That just swell your head. We won't be able to see you then. But Charles, great presentation. What I'd like to do is turn it over to District Governor-elect Lyle to give a thank and close us out.
Thanks so much, Barry. Friends, Charles, you should know, is the chair. We have 31 district governors-elect in zones 33 and 34, and Charles chairs the committee that is preparing what he just presented, some of what he just presented, and more. So when Barry said, we've got 2 great districts here, we do. We are actually leaders in amongst our zone, and Charles is well recognized. I mean, his voice and his ability to stand on one leg for long periods of time really helps. He kind of pulls it off. He really does. But a couple of things that Charles said, and I just want to bring them back. He stressed on part of our philosophy, part of what we're trying to roll out is no member lost because of this crisis. That is the heart, and I've said it before, but it bears repetition. That is the essence of what we're trying to achieve. He also said, you've got to be sensitive because Rotarians don't like to admit that they're suffering. but I've seen Rotarians suffering. I've seen it right here in St. Lucia, where Rotarians don't want to say it, but they can hardly hold back. Things are tough. So we have to be sensitive to their financial situation and to their emotional situation. Charles also asked us, please, to remain calm, but to lead. And that takes us back to our core values. Core values: fellowship, service, integrity, diversity, and leadership. Lead in the new normal. I think that's what Charles, if I had to use one sentence to sum up what Charles said, lead in the new normal. So with that, I would say thank you very much. The questions are closed. Barry, is it then now that we just say good night, adieu, bonsoir, merci? And I'm lost for the Dutch words right now, but I'm going to try and pick them up. I'll hand back to you, Barry. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you all. Another enjoyable night with some couple of great presenters and good information and helping you to become the best leaders the Rotary world has ever seen. So get ready Saturday morning. Unfortunately, you got to deal with a past president as one of your speakers. Actually, you have two past presidents as speakers on Saturday morning. Wow, okay. I forgot that for a moment. Come Saturday, it's going to be a fun time. I know Ravi will be outstanding because he always is. So please remember, come and join us. Again, Peter, thank you. Charles, thank you. Everybody have a wonderful night. Stay safe, stay healthy. Get ready to be the best leader in the world. Thank you all.